I tried on the new TUDOR Pelagos 39mm today, and I wanted to share with you my thoughts on this piece. To add icing on the cake, I also brought my ROLEX Submariner with me so you can see a side-by-side comparison of the two watches. Let's get into it. The Pelagos felt really good on my 6-inch wrist. The first thing that I noticed is the weight, or the lack of weight, shall I say. The watch is made out of titanium, which makes the watch feel really light. I can see it being a very comfortable daily driver for so many people, and especially to those who have smaller wrists like myself. I am personally a big fan of it. Next is the thickness, which is usually a weakness for most TUDOR watches. I am very happy to report that the new Pelagos is quite a thin watch. When I put it next to my Submariner, the thickness looks almost identical to the Rolex. Notice the mid-case of the TUDOR is thicker than the Rolex, but the Rolex has a thicker case back. So overall, even though thickness are similar, I think the Pelagos is still going to wear slightly larger on the wrist because of the slightly bigger mid-case. To my surprise, the clasps of the two watches are quite similar. I thought the TUDOR would be more compact, but I actually think that the clasp on the Pelagos is slightly longer than the Submariner. By the way, a good friend of mine shared some footages on the new Pelagos and his own Black Bay Pro. I'll be doing a comparison video soon, so please subscribe and hit the notification button if you would like to stay updated. The bezel on the Pelagos has a sunray finish. It is really hard to capture on camera, but in person, you can definitely see the brushed lines on the bezel. The bezel is very shiny, and it has a very different look compared to the Submariner. The bezel can also look grey in certain lighting conditions, which adds a bit of fun and dynamic to the watch in my opinion. Speaking of bezel, the bezel on the Pelagos is very easy to operate. The edge of the bezel sticks out a bit more than the case, and together with the more prominent teeth, it makes it very easy to grip. The bezel is much easier to use compared to the Black Bay 58. Unlike the 58, which I have to apply quite a bit of pressure to rotate the bezel, the one on the Pelagos is buttery smooth, and I much prefer the feel on the Pelagos. With that being said, I still think the Submariner has the best bezel feedback out of the three. The dial of the Pelagos also has a sunray finish, which is very different to the glossy dial on the Submariner. But in certain angles, both dials look exactly the same. The Pelagos is really a watch that you have to check it out in person to fully experience it in my opinion. It is also worth mentioning that the Pelagos also comes with a rubber strap. There's also a diver extension add-on to the rubber strap which I find quite interesting. I personally would never use the extension, so I would rather not have this add-on if that means TUDOR can lower the price of the watch by a bit. Overall, I really like these Pelagos, and my view hasn't really changed since I did my initial impression of the watch. The Pelagos look so similar to my Submariner, but it is so different in so many ways at the same time. I personally think that the two watches can coexist in the same collection, and I am very tempted by this new release. But the thing is, I just added a new watch to my collection this week, so I can't really justify buying another watch right now. But perhaps in the future, you will be able to see these new Pelagos being added to my collection too. Speaking of which, I'm still not sure if I should do a review on my new purchase. Let me know if it is something that you would like to see in the future. Cheers!